It is November the 22nd, 2016. I'm Dina, your host, the nuclear proctologist guy at thenuclearproctologist.org. Rocking it. We're rocking it. Little touch up I forgot. Bear with me. We are in business for truth. We're not in business for manipulations or deceptions or mass annihilation. Switzerland is at odds because of Fukushima 6 years later. And so concerns are real, very real. Think about yesterday's earthquake was 7 miles deep and 23 miles away versus 43 miles away and 18 miles deep. So it's 2.5 times shallower and almost half the distance away. Now we know, I'll wind it down, we know shallow earthquakes are devastating. It was felt in Tokyo, yeah? And everybody knows it. We're not pretending that this building is somehow stable, even though the media is showing you that picture. In Japan, media is used to blackouts. They actually have laws where they are not allowed to speculate. They're only allowed to regurgitate the official narratives that is put out, and up to 10 years in jail if you don't bow down and lick the nuclear boots that rule your world, whether you understand that or realize that or can comprehend that is something you will come to terms with. If you refuse to look at both sides of the narratives. Does that look like it's on top of a reactor to you? That's that yellow. Another way to do this, Dina. That's that yellow above my head. The reactor is in the center up high above that floor. These are the depictions they fed you. Now look at that. Do you think inside of that it's like that? And if it is like that, then why do that? And do you realize that those people you're looking at are dead because of gamma shine and X-ray and neutron, and that they're the homeless? And do you realize they hid everything about this for 6 years from you? You realize we're not the bad people for saying, hey, I find it hard to believe that depiction is inside the actual building. And they're both authentic footage. Inside of that is already destroyed, is allegedly dead. So when they come out and say, after an earthquake...
Regulation authority says a cooling system for a spent nuclear fuel pool at the Fukushima Dai-Ni plant has resumed operation after briefly halting following the quake. Officials say there are no reports of abnormalities in other reactors at the plant. The regulator says as of 7:55 a.m., there are also no reports of irregularities at the Fukushima Daiichi plant, which was crippled by the 2011 quake and tsunami, nor at any other nuclear plant or facility in the area. And they say there are no changes to radiation levels at monitoring posts in the area.
Well, ain't that interesting?
Continue to keep an eye on the situation in and around northeastern Japan and bring you updates as details come in.
No, you won't. By the way, Mox is awesome. He's not Mox fuel. Trust me. Nowhere to run. Hot particles in Seattle. This is why we're worried about it in North America, because we know how much comes to North America after an accident. And so yesterday's video, when I said tape your windows and tape your doors to mitigate the fallout that is coming, it's always coming. But a reactor 3, that's reactor 4 you're looking at. Reactor 3 is also unstable. Okay, it's destroyed. Is a better way of looking at it. So, you're talking about a shallow quake. You're talking about a much closer quake. You're talking about a very powerful quake. You're talking about a quake that shook, sustained for a very long period of time. Do you think that that is anywhere in that building, even though they gutted some of it, but anywhere in these facilities, that they're stable, that a 7-point sustained with multiple aftershocks is somehow, no, don't worry about it, worry about the other plant. Don't worry about this one. So all the focus went to Downey instead of this one. That should have been your first worry. That should have been your first concern. That should have been the first thing that said, hey, I don't like what I'm hearing. They don't talk about the one that's actually destroyed. They don't talk about the actual issue, the actual concern. They don't bring that up. Oh, we're worried that's going to collapse or that's going to have a problem. You can't get in there for 3,000 years. No, they talk about the Downey. The Downey had serious damage and multiple meltdowns that we know about. We've covered it before many times. We should cover it again. According to the Japanese government's atomic energy regulatory, said the second, which is the Downey power plant in Fukushima nuclear fuel rod storage tanks, a cooling system stopped. Now, I'm not worried about Downey stopping. I'm worried about these collapsing, anything left inside of it going into a chain reaction. And that's what you should be. That's what your media should be worried about. Should be fixated on. Should be all over it. They had helicopters in the sky, but yet they didn't show us any of that. Each of these buildings had 6 years of fuel. 6 years. And the time is precious on this planet right now. All of these reactors, but we were fixated on a tsunami we knew that wasn't coming. That was only, at best, going to be 10 feet. And so that's still enough to go a long way inland in the right spot. But they had walls, they had learned their lessons, they had the systems up, they evacuated everybody. And it could have been very well also because they knew these things just collapsed. How much energy do you really think it takes? I'm sorry, hang on. How much energy do you think it takes to collapse that? Do you got to be an engineer to work that out? Do you got to be a genius to wrap your mind around that? Do you got to have some kind of insight into the world of nuclear to understand that that's not stable? Do you have, as a media, an obligation to talk about that? Now, don't forget that truck. Don't forget that in the next pictures coming up. These are questions you got to ask yourself instead of asking yourself, oh, there's an earthquake right off. It's shallow, closer, which means when it's shallow means it's much more severe. Remember, it was felt all the way in Tokyo, shaking stuff. And so saying that 23 miles away might be an issue, saying that this being only 23 miles away, I'm more worried about that because of what happens after. It could, fuel rods that are down inside could be shaking, all the stuff, if the chain reaction is still ongoing, and it could be. Everything falls in on it, cannibalizes, atomizes, was in contact with fissionable product, is now fissionable product, is now dirty bomb material. But 2 million atoms on the head of a needle you can't see, every one of them can give you a cancer 10, 20, 30, and will 40, 50 years down the road. The more you get, the quicker 1,800 diseases that show up before cancer are manifesting and diagnosing. And so a magnitude 2016, within 10 hours was quicker than that. But I went back last night and looked for more. I'm burnt out shifting through everything out there. Honest to goodness. Just to get up each morning and do what I do and end up here in the chair. My other camera's dying on me now. Jesus. No, we're not worried about that. We're worried about Tiny Dana. I would be too. 2,500 spent fuel rods. But there's around 6 reactor cores missing in each of these buildings. And so 2,500 fuel rods, yeah, is huge. Don't get me wrong. But the chain reaction can happen instantaneous. So are you worried about this spot media at all? Massive 7.3. InfoWars was out there. Rocks, Fukushima region has remained damaged, yeah? Good. Some people are not, shouldn't be allowed to write. The agency reported the epicenter struck approximately 6 a.m. was in the Pacific Ocean of a depth of 6 miles. This is friggin' believable how shallow that is. The shallow it is, the more vicious the shaking, the lateral shaking, right? It's like vicious. It's a massive earthquake as it was. Everybody acknowledges that. Had many aftershocks behind that. Hang on. The size of today's earthquake is considerably more powerful than the 2011 quake, which registered 6.6. They got that backwards, I hope. I'm going out of focus. Yeah, what else is new? That's what happened to my other cameras, not usable. I got to use it because I can't afford to buy a proper one. Look at it. Are you worried about that? Hang on. Like, wouldn't you think media should be out screeching? That's Unit 3. That's what the chatter was yesterday. It was a cover-up to get, because you can't look for anything when everybody puts Tiny in there, right? And like I've showed you headline after headline after headline talking about Tiny when it should be fixated. Fixated. For 6 years, let alone yesterday. This was the military. They'd be all over it all day, every day. The military wants a new reactor building. The military needs money. The military says we got to jump up and down till they say stop. But it's better to listen to the mad scientists, yeah? Saying it's like a banana, or it's like, it's Dana, Dana is just... Dana is like walking in the sunshine or sleeping next to somebody or getting on an airplane or potato chips. It's like climbing a mountain, Dana. The radiation is everywhere. It's good for you. Instead of that nonsense. Somebody will clip that out. Dana's a robot. Let's get rid of that. What does that look like to you? Should you worry about that? Or fixate on a fuel pool that takes 7 days before the water gets low enough? The reactors will heat up 50 degrees an hour, and 38 hours later, that's 2,200 degrees, right? It was gone. That's what happened to these buildings, right? 2,200 degree temperatures. 38 hours later, they had all went kaboy. Okay, I know the music's not music, but I'll turn that down. Sorry. I get carried away sometimes with the headphones on. Ew, the Globe and Mail, which is the biggest purveyor of uranium stocks on the planet, come out screeching, it's okay. It was a tiny. It wasn't Fukushima. It wasn't Fukushima. It was tiny. It was tiny, Dana, you bastard. I got some whack calls yesterday of people yelling at me. Dana, you got no proof that building is unstable, Dana. You got no right coming out and saying that, Dana. What's wrong, Dana? What are you doing, Dana? I don't want to do it. I don't want this job. I don't like doing what I'm doing. 23 miles away, 7 miles down. I got a moral obligation to come out and flush it out. And what I found yesterday, I didn't like at all. Nobody worried about Fukushima Daiichi at all. Not a single person. And that's the one you're going to be terrified. Oh, I'm worried about the fuel pool. They won't fix it in 7 days, Dana. No, you're covering up. It came out right away. I caught it. I didn't get it right away. I was trying to understand what had happened. I got it. It's recorded. It's copyright, though. Look, when you think about how this system actually works, because I've been taken down twice, 6 months at a time over nonsense copyright, fabled copyright where people made it up and you couldn't get Google to listen. Disgusting. Over a year, right? In the last 3 years, we lost almost a year. 300 videos had to be taken down, court orders, gag order against me, yet I'm still here all the time. I'm supposed to be in court this morning, but they moved that till next month. Probation yesterday. That stresses the shit out of me. I had to go to probation 36 times. I can do the same thing to anybody else on the planet, but I can't do it to two certain people. If I can do it to anybody else, it's like you're living in Orwellian planet, obviously, right? Third paragraph, the quake was shallow, which means it was potentially more destructive. But we're not worried about Daiichi, we're worried about tiny, Dana. People are so fucking gullible. It really is, right? We live in a gullible fucking society. It was not that far. No, it was a big difference when it's half as far and 2.5 times shallower. Yeah? It's a big difference. Massive earthquake strikes off. Well, I call it a massive earthquake, but not mention the Donny plants, which are destroyed. It's a little loud, I bet. I like it. It's got rumble. But think about it. It's half the distance almost, only. The Tomoka was twice the distance and 2.5 times deeper, right? Like if it was right under, like the major earthquake they had, I can't remember, it was like 20 years ago or something. That was right where basically the A in Japan is to. That was right under land. That was brutal. Like the shallower it is, the closer to land it is, even if it's deep, it's still bad. But the closer to land and the shallower it is, the worse. It's the worst case scenario. So they described it 250 kilometers northeast of Japan's capital, radiated capital, Tokyo. Well, why would you describe it that way when everybody knows the concern is Fukushima? That's why they kept going after Daini, right? You're trying to right? That's when they come out with all this. I'll turn that down. So anyway, you see this, the last paragraph, earthquakes are common in Japan. That's over and over and over. You see that everywhere out there yesterday. Everywhere. That's a story I threw in there just in case I forgot to cover it in the future. Ghost town using dummies because radiation is not like a banana. See? It's not like sleeping next to somebody. It's not like eating potato chips or walking in sunshine. Anybody told you that, you have to disregard them. And if it's a family member, well, you should do something about those people. If that's your loved ones, you should do something about the people that were lying, telling everybody it's like a banana, like walking in sunshine. What kind of idiot would buy in, would let their loved ones get out and lie to people with that lie, right? Getting on plains and mountains and radiation is good for you when you're talking about a nuclear plant. Massive earthquake because it was shallow and it was close. And so they control the media. They control the stuff you can get your hands on. But as you can see, the big one was twice the distance almost, but 2.5 times shallower. Large earthquake is another depiction. And then they call it 6.9. Google calls it a 6.9. But everybody else's headline, 7.4 from Telegraph, the New Zealand Herald, BBC, Mirror, Al Jazeera, ABC, CNN, Bloomberg, ABC, NBC, New York Times, CBC, Express, Sky News. I'm just burning through them. Washington Post, News.com, RT, Daily Mail, everybody. Fox, Wall Street Journal, Zero Hedge got in there, ABC, SMH, Catla, they even went for the worst. But this was the list. They didn't feed you anybody else. All they fed you was that. That's what they fed you. Because that's what I got. As I went down through it, I screen captured everything. National Post, Reuters, ABC, Auckland News, Australia News, Fox again, CTV, Cairo, Mashables, one more, Reddit, anything but us. Anything but the people that were actually making the news, the people that were actually documenting what was happening, the people that were saying, hey, wait a second, why not worry about Fukushima? You couldn't even find me out there. I was searching. I didn't see myself show up after I posted that short video. That didn't show up in any of the search indexes whatsoever. All I found was those I showed you. So you knew they were up to something. Well, I knew what they were up to because I've been paying attention. They're worried about dying, right? This is what they tell you, all of them, the same thing. Instead of talking about what they were supposed to talk about, what they needed to talk about, what everybody was actually worried about, what everybody had every right to know about. Right? Talk about dining. This is what they're talking about there. Okay. You don't see the pump trucks in these pictures, yeah? Because the pump trucks are not there yet. Because that's what the buildings actually look like. There's Unit 3 above me, Unit 4 over there. I got to back up for each one because you don't know if you can zoom in or not, or you want to. Or that's the top. It's gone. Unit 3. But they're part of nuclear facility. Now, the stuff that I was listening to, the live streams and that, they were talking about Fukushima Daini at the beginning of it, but then they gave it up and everything focused on, or Daiichi at the beginning of it, and Daini. But they were talking about Diachi a number of times, but then it disappeared. And I went through all the live feeds like a madman looking to see if I can pick it back up somewhere else, and I couldn't. And I recorded everything as I was doing it. But we sorry, guys. But we only got a half an hour. I don't know why I was still on the volume button that time. Pediatrics. As long as you don't give your children anything nuclear, 97% of leukemia victims died before they would have without the leukemia. 3% that survived were in misery. And you have to kill literally all the cells in your body that way. And that's why you lose your hair right away. Such a big doses. Talking about the fuel pool at Dining instead of the reactors in heart attack mode at Fukushima. Right? You don't see the pump trucks there because that's what the buildings actually looked like after they blew up. Think about that every time you see a picture without the pump trucks. Unless it's a recent one. I'll get to a couple of them in a second. Tsunami hit Japan after strong quake. So everybody come out and just, like, it all becomes tsunami. And I knew right away the tsunami was only going to be a couple of feet high, even though they said 10 feet. It was pretty obvious to anybody paying attention. See the truck up there now? In top left-hand corner? But they came out with that narrative, 7.4 strong quake. And even this one here where they changed the headline, but 7.3. Now, it was actually 7.6 they were talking about. That's why my headline was 7.6 in the live streams. So they weren't worried about that. They were worried about something 7 days later they could have fixed. They knew it. It was just a pump. They could have brought in a fire trucks and then pumped it in there. It wasn't a meltdown. These things are going to a chain reaction on the drop of a fucking hat. Excuse the language. 23 miles east, 6 miles down. So that would have destroyed. I'm looking for pictures while I'm here. Hang on. Okay, hang on. I know what I was thinking about before. Let me come back up. Tina. We're almost through it, eh? Notice how these pictures don't have the pump truck? Notice how this picture don't have the pump truck. Notice these pictures don't, and the dead homeless people that you see there now, they died within a week or two. Anybody went near these buildings within 300 feet to 300 meters got a fatal dose, but it could take a week or a month or a year, depending on, or 2 years or 3 years or 10 years, but it'll get you. You could die. If they stay there for like 20 minutes, they're done. They'll be dead in a week. Anybody. This was all done by cranes, right? This was the cover-up. It was all gone. That's why the pump is gone. See, the pump truck is gone. It's just another way of understanding what really they done to you. How they manipulated. Oh, does that look like a top of a reactor building to you? Does it look like it's sitting on the reactor? Do you know what a reactor looks like? No, Dana, that's normal, Dana. No, it's not. Shut your pie hole. That's normal? Like, think about how they told you this beautiful pool is inside of that. Can you reconcile that? Hang on. Back this shit up. We got a couple of minutes to go. We got 1 minute to go. Okay, let me boom through a couple of these quick depictions, comparisons before. Well, this is Unit 2, but this is what they should look like, just for a quick way for you to understand the comparison of why I'm saying the reactor cores, 5 reactor cores were up high. They weren't down low. There was common span pools down low for the 10-year-old fuel. They leave the reactor cores up there for 10 years. So there's about 6 reactor cores in the building. Okay. Let's burn it down. Let's call it a show. Hopefully. Nobody knows for sure. come up here. Hugs for everybody. Hello, everybody. My apologies, I never got over this morning. Hi, Radical. She's doing so good for herself. So proud of her. Mexican Fun. M Thirst. CJ. Hello, everybody. Good morning. Hugs for everybody. Thank you, everybody. Understand, I don't do what I do. I am it. That I am. What I do is what I am, or who I am. It's like a religion. No matter how tough it is, each day, each night, every minute, there's nothing can slow me. There's nothing will stop me. There's nothing can change me. Concert Radio. Really nice people, folks. You'll find links below, hopefully. And you can find them, just to make sure you can find them later. Go type Fukushima in over there. He knows. He's reported on so much. Like everybody, we're out here fighting. True Royal Family is going full swing. We so appreciate everybody. Thanks to Radical Home Goddess. Just dedicated people like Shanikin, Elaine, Neil, everybody. That's right. Take care, folks. We'll see everybody tomorrow. Tough day. Got a long day ahead of me. Take care.